Good morning, everyone, and welcome. It is FPC Radio Live. That is right. We are live on a Tuesday. We're a little bit late. I overslept, John. That game last night really just kind of knocked me out, put me to sleep. It was some of the worst football I've ever seen in my life. It's funny, and people have yet to learn this after 20 some odd years that when Tom Brady speaks, John, you should probably listen and believe everything he says because he inaccurately he was trending on Twitter, not for the right reasons too. And I'm not saying anything nefarious or bad or anything like that, but I talked about those comments the other day that he made about the mediocrity of the sport right now, and there's a lot of truth to it. And you know how it is. Alex Smith was up on camera, and then he started going in about the bad AFC East, which John, if I were to, forget everything you know about the AFC East right now, John. Okay, have you done that?
Yeah, I would like to forget the AFC East because the Patriots are god awful, and Aaron Rodgers got hurt 4 plays into the season.
Not the current.
Half the teams in the AFC East.
Not the current AFC East. Not the current AFC East. I'm talking about the AFC East, once known as the Patriots playground. So if someone says to you, John, the AFC East was by far the worst division. The implication being, well, no quarterback had an easier route to the playoffs than Tom Brady, John. No one in the history of the sport. That's kind of the implication in all these things. But they say the AFC East is the worst division. Okay. All right. If I were to show you the records of obviously the entire division, with the Patriots included, they're obviously going to be at the top. If you remove the Patriots and remove their, I guess, counterparts in each division, i.e. the number one teams, you know what I mean? To kind of focus in on those teams 2 through 4. What if I were to tell you, John, that the AFC East not only was not the worst division, but they were a little bit better than average. Not great, but quite frankly, John, what division was quote unquote great? You know what I'm saying? So like the collective records of the teams other than the Patriots in the division were better than a handful of other divisions. Not the best, but again, certainly is not the worst division of all time, John. So naturally, I spoke out against that, as I tend to do. I fight truth and justice, John. That's what I do. If I see
you're a Superman.
Yes. Thank you. John, you said it, not me. I those are your words, not mine, and I'm not going to argue with you. It's like with George, if that makes you feel better. That's one of my favorite Seinfeld lines when he's like, it's like the villain from Superman. He's like, if it makes you feel better. I love it. But anyways, the point is, he said this thing about the mediocrity of football, and we proceed to have one of the most mediocre weekends of football in terms of there's a couple really good games, but there was a lot of stink, stank, stunk. Remember that line earlier from the Patriots media? Stink, stank, stunk. We got a lot of that this weekend.
Yep, absolutely. Yep.
And it certainly was well on display last night. So again, like I said, when Tom Brady speaks, you should probably listen. Put aside your hate. Put aside your jealousy, Chiefs fans. I get it. I understand. Not coincidentally, John, the only group of people who had a problem with what I said about Alex Smith being wrong, and he was, were Chiefs fans. Surprise, surprise. What do you know? They seem to be a little bit insecure about that for some reason. But nonetheless, when he speaks, listen, because, he's right. We're getting a lot of mediocre football, a lot of poorly coached football, and you're seeing a lot of sloppiness out of a lot of these teams, and most notably at the quarterback position.
Well, okay, here's what I'll say is it's about time he actually said something, because for most of 20 years, he was kind of like
he said these things with Tampa Bay 3 years ago. So people out there that are calling him out, it was like, oh, because there's some people like, oh, look, now he just retired and now he's being this gatekeeper. It's like, no, he said pretty much the same exact thing like 2 or 3 years ago, but no one ever listens to what he says. You know what I mean?
Because you're kind of numb to the fact that he really didn't say much over the years. But if he said it 2-3 years ago, then congratulations. He's going to be making $37.5 million a year next year as a Fox analyst. I hope he says things. I hope he does. I hope he's going to really speak his mind, because that's kind of what his job is supposed to be.
I think he's been pretty vocal. I mean, the problem is like the platform in which he's been on the microphone is not something that's necessarily needed for him to expand in. Like, I get it. Like, you want the ins and outs of everything that happened. Not you. I'm just saying in general. People want the ins and outs of what happened behind the scenes with how they came up with these game plans, or what they do this or how they do that. And it's just it's not information that's necessarily, like, it doesn't benefit the Patriots or Brady to necessarily expound on that, except for other than to satisfy media and potentially fans. So I understand why he doesn't say anything when it comes to the in-game football stuff, but he's been pretty, I'm not going to say outspoken, because it's not like he's having, I mean, these opinions aren't necessarily, I mean, they're not outrageous. I mean, they're practical and kind of well thought out. I think, I think Brady's a guy who's, he'll be the first one to tell you he's probably not the genius of the group, but he found his niche, and that's football and everything that, fitness and everything like that. So, like, I mean, I think he's kind of the right person to speak about this, because he very uniquely played in both eras, John, or at least the older NFL that saw less of an open passing game. And, like, go to who was it? I'm blanking on it this weekend. Cleveland, the backup quarterback. First of all, that hit was not a penalty. The one that knocked him out, gave him a concussion and everything like that. That was not a penalty. That was a hard football hit that, unfortunately, I thought, looked silly. But you know why that happened, John? Because of bad habits. Like, who does that as a quarterback? I understand the inexperience, but who does that when you run around, except for maybe Dan Orlovsky, because he has no idea about any sort of depth of the end zone or anything like that. But you have this.
You're all over the place this morning. You got all your energy.
Oh, I got my energy drink going this morning.
You're Michael Corleone, at the end of The Godfather, just wiping out the heads of the 5 families.
Well, like I said,
I got fooling around.
I got a lot of energy last night. That game bored me to sleep, to the point where I slept more than I've ever slept in my life. So, but
that's a good thing, though. I mean, at least give the Bears and Vikings credit for that. You caught up on some Z's.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But the point is, so he's running around and like a video game, just carelessly throws into the hit. And I'm like thinking, John, I'm like, this is like high school kids football Pop Warner stuff. You know what I mean? Like, that's not NFL football. And it's like, I understand that, like, yes, there's probably the inexperience factor, the, oh crap, I'm getting chased down type of thing. But, like, at the same time, it's kind of it doesn't sum up what Brady's saying, but it kind of adds to the point. The point is, this weekend, and certainly Monday Night Football, did nothing to weaken what Brady was saying. If anything, it strengthened his point that, yeah, and this is something we've been talking about all season, John. It's just kind of mediocre quarterback play, and kind of the trickle-down effect, where it's like, are there enough good players or well-coached players to fill out all these rosters where we're getting quality football every week? And the answer is no.
There have been 50 quarterbacks that have started games this year. That's an inordinately high number. So you're going to get a lot of bad quarterback play, right? Like the Bengals went from Burrow to Browning. So there's going to be obviously a regression in quarterback play. Some teams have started 3 different quarterbacks. Look at the Jets now. They're on the 3rd different starting quarterback, and it's just not getting any better. Of course, it's not going to get better, because you went from a Hall of Famer to a bust to a career third string quarterback. What exactly can you expect? But I think there's a lot that goes into this as well. I think offensive line play is really poor. Defensive lines are dominating offensive lines. Defense coordinators get paid too, so they're coming up with defenses to try to combat offenses. And what defenses have done, and we talked about this probably in week 2, Ian, where two high safeties, they're forcing you to go on 12, 13 play drives. Well, young quarterbacks aren't really good at that stuff. Who was great at that stuff? Tom Brady. Who was great at that stuff? Peyton Manning, Aaron Rodgers. Well, those guys aren't around anymore. So now you got young guys that are impatient that are trying to, make a big play. And what does that mean? Interceptions. We see that from Josh Allen. We've even seen that a little bit from Patrick Mahomes. So yeah, quarterback play is definitely down. Scoring's down a touchdown from 2020. I mean, that is a significant drop.
Yeah.
The average game in 2020 was 51 points. Now it's down to like 43 and a half. I mean, you know what? If you want to watch good football, watch college football. The Michigan-Ohio State game was phenomenal. Alabama-Auburn was great. Washington State was great. The NFL, man, starting on Thanksgiving, those games were horrible. The Friday game was horrible. The Patriots game was horrible. And then you end the week with that thing last night. If someone had come to this country for the first time and we, we're trying to sell football as our national sport, which it is, and like 40 million people on a Sunday, I think you have 40 million people watching that game Friday between the Jets and Dolphins, people would look at us and go, you people are nuts. Like, what's exciting about this thing? First of all, I don't even understand the sport. And it's just god-awful to watch. I mean, the league at some point is going to have to try to figure out a way to make this thing more entertaining. And I know gambling and fantasy and all that stuff kind of keeps us into it, but it's like a drug that we need. And at some point, we're going to look back and go, do we really need this?
Well, the problem is it's look, we talk about it all the time that the NFL cannot screw up. I mean, they can trip over their own feet and land on their feet. I mean, it's just what happens. I mean, they don't. They're essentially waivable. I mean,
fail.
Yeah, I mean, it's like we've seen it. It doesn't matter. Scandals this, scandals that. But eventually, yes. I mean, I think if the product becomes just average, then yeah. I mean, you like. I don't. And again, I'm trying so hard to because this is something that I'm dealing with in my life. Is am I crossing the line into back in my day? We make fun of that all the time. The old guy back in my day. Well, I kind of feel like that right now. So I'm having a little bit of a internal crisis here. So I'm hoping.
Can't wait to see you at 50 years old, man.
Oh, don't worry. I'm going to be
really angry.
I'm going to be an absolute lunatic. So you might want to.
You're already there.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. It's only going to get worse from here. But yeah, it's. I'm looking at it like I hope that's not the case. I hope that's not what I'm doing. But again, you don't have. We're coming out of a era in football where. We've talked about it a lot. Brady, Manning, Rodgers, Breeze, Roethlisberger, Rivers. I mean, we're talking about tier 2/tier 3 quarterbacks being maybe like Josh Allen. You know what I mean? That's where we're at right now. So the yes has the play slipped. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're not getting as much physical coaching. That's going to affect the product over time. Over the years, as different generations come in. And remember, John, I mean, a lot of these kids now, or a lot of these young players, they grew up playing in the rules that we know now, so different ways of playing. So, this game has been this way. And over the course of time, you're going to lose a lot of that physicality. I mean, we joke about it now. It's like, is it even football anymore? Every time we get a poor passing or a poor roughing the passer call or something like that. And eventually it is going to get more. I mean, we see it all the time, John, like for example, when Patrick Mahomes does that little, I got something in my pants run down the sidelines where defenders are just afraid to hit him because they're worried that they're going to get flagged. Because all he has to do is lean, see a defender come towards him. He just needs to lean towards the out of bounds and he's going to get that flag. That's part of the problem. That's part of the problem. You think, look, we've all seen that clip of Brady running towards the sidelines against the Bills back in 2001, 2002, where I think it was Nate Clements just absolutely tore his head off. But he popped right back up. You're not going to see that in the NFL today. And if you do, that player's probably getting suspended for the rest of the season if they're going to go flying in and take a quarterback's head off. So what does that do, John? It allows for Patrick Mahomes to run 30 yards down the sideline uncontested against, what was it, the Titans in the playoffs that year?
Right, the AFC Championship game. Do you remember a playoff game? Now I'm going to kind of flip it a little bit. In 1997, the Patriots were playing the Steelers in the divisional round, and Cordell Stewart scored the only touchdown of the game. He was going down the left sideline, and Patriot players kind of let up on him because they just assumed he was going out of bounds.
Yep.
He cut it back in for a touchdown. So even then, quarterbacks were playing with fire at that point. I'm going to throw this out to you. I think quarterbacks, especially the young ones now, are overcoached in this sense. They started at very young age, 12, 13 years old, maybe even younger for all I know, that they're looked at as, okay, these are prodigies. We're going to just overwhelm them with information and passing camps and 7-on-7 and Elite 11 and whatever the hell else they call it. And all these former quarterbacks like Trent Dilfer and the rest of them are coaching these guys at 12, 13 years old, that they get to the point where they're almost like overcoached. It's overdoing it, whereas a lot of the older quarterbacks, and we talk about Brady all the time, he played baseball. Mahomes played baseball. Rodgers played baseball. These guys played other sports. Joe Burrow was all-state in basketball, state of Ohio. Like maybe it would help if they just don't overwhelm these guys to the point where that's all they know. And I think you see that with Mac Jones. He's like, I think the guy is just cooked because it's just too much. Like at some point, you've got to be able to flow a little bit with the game.
I also think I think quarterbacks think they can rely on athleticism more so than what they should, and that's part of the coaching where I think it's might have gone not wrong, but less of an emphasis, because we say it all the time. Look, what's in between your head is 1,000 times more important than being athletically gifted. I couldn't care less if you can scramble, do backflips, run on one. I don't care about any of that. It's nice, and yes, can you make plays? Sure, absolutely. But I make the argument all the time, and people are still fawning over that Patrick Mahomes, though, as they should. You know which one I'm talking about, the one where he kind of tucked it into Kelsey.
The way you said that, I thought you said that Patrick Mahomes. You sounded like John McCain during the presidential debate.
No. Well, no, I mean, I was
that Patrick Mahomes.
Well, no, I'm trying to emphasize that.
I got you. Yeah.
Like, you should rightfully be celebrating that throw and talking about that throw. Maybe not to the extent of people like Mina Kimes and some others that have, apparently never seen a quarterback throw a football before. But that was a great throw. And in fact, that was better than 90% of the things that people fawn over when it comes to him. And that's the problem. So you sit there as a kid, you grow up, you're playing quarterback, you see people go, and no offense, go gaga over Aaron Rodgers' athleticism. Well, that's great and all, but that's rare. And even his rare gift doesn't, I think has flaws, because I think if he was less inclined to do all the funky, crazy things that he does, I think would have been a better quarterback, and maybe made a few better decisions in the championship game. Neither here nor there. The point is, John,
you had to go there. I thought
I had to. I had to hit all my bases today. Every base. But
wow.
The point is.
When is Festivus? Isn't this the airing of agreement?
Yes.
It feels like
it.
Or so?
It feels like
wow.
it.
Is this going to be the next month of this review? Is going to be airing of grievances every single day? I better be ready for this.
Well, sometimes I just get on a roll, but like I said, I think younger quarterbacks are much more. They just feel like their athleticism can overcome anything they see. So, like, how many times do we see quarterbacks run and try to throw across the field? Now I feel
it's a disaster.
I feel like it's an epidemic now, and it's some players can kind of do it, others can't, and they still do it. And it's like, how often did we see that out of the elite quarterbacks? And I'm talking, look, the bottom tier quarterbacks, they're always going to play sloppy. I'm not saying that never existed before, but we're seeing that more and more out of the quote unquote elite class of quarterbacks of this era, and it's just. Again, at the end of the day, it translates to pretty subpar football in a lot of cases.
Can I just maybe explain why more quarterbacks are relying on the athletic ability? Again, I go back to the offensive line. And again,
sure.
You have to learn to maneuver within the pocket. I get that. But not everybody has that gift. And to me, that's a gift. You just, Tom Brady had it.
Instincts, vision.
Drew Bledsoe never had it. It's instinct as much as anything. Like Tom Brady, the great quarterback, they could just feel pressure without seeing it. Like, that's what you have to do. You can't turn your head and see an on rusher. And Drew Bledsoe, who I thought was a really good quarterback, had no feel in the pocket the way Brady does. It's just kind of an instinctual thing. So now with offensive line play being so poor, these guys at some point are like, holy crap, here comes Myles Garrett or whoever. I better get the hell away from him. And the problem is Myles Garrett's a better athlete than any quarterback in the NFL. I mean, say maybe Lamar Jackson or maybe Justin Fields or two guys that, you know, maybe have pure athletic ability over Myles Garrett, except he's 6'5" and 75.
Right.
So if he gets a hold of you, you're not getting away. So, yeah, I think that's part of it, too. So, again, everything's rushed, and these guys just they're not marinated enough that they can command the position to the point where they have to be in control of what they're doing, and they get fed up and make more and more mistakes.
Yeah, no, hey, I'm not disagreeing with you. So, well, that was fascinating conversation. Not exactly what we planned to do for today, but you know, that's how we roll here. We'll be back on Thursday. We're going to give our top 5 teams. Then we'll kind of get more into the week and everything like that, and have some fun. But in the meantime, thank you everyone for tuning in, and have a great day. Stay warm. It's a little chilly down here in Florida today, so you know I'm going to try to bundle up. But yeah, you know, 55 degrees. It's tough.
Oh,
it's tough being me. So
feel bad for you.
Yeah, well, you should. But all right, that's going to do it for us here today. We'll talk to you all tomorrow. Have a good one.